Hello, everyone, and welcome back. We are joining this exciting session with one question. Are you not entertained? We're going to be looking at the role that NFTs will have and continue to have in transforming the entertainment space. So I have a really exciting discussion for you today. But before I introduce our moderator for the second for the session, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to two of our partners at the event today. The first is Venly, who are for any wallet and NFT products you want to organize that seamlessly integrate with your blockchain project. Check out Venly's booth for an understanding of how you can utilize their platform to support your project. And really a user-centric approach to wallet generation as well. And then the second partner I wanted to just give a shout out to is Nimble Insurance, a partner who are focused on moving forward with confidence in the insurance space where Web3 needs backing. Learn about the future of decentralized insurance with Nimble and check out their booth today. Okay, and with no further ado, I'm going to introduce our moderator for this session. That is Audrey Nesbitt. Audrey, welcome to the stage. You can now turn on your camera and microphone. And I'm going to hide myself. Thanks a lot, guys.
Hi, everyone. I am Audrey Nesbitt, Head of Marketing for Fluidify and Crypto Chicks, a nonprofit education hub. We've been in the space since 2016, which is senior years for those just entering the crypto space. Yes, so we're going to talk about NFTs in entertainment, and I'm going to address, I believe I'm going to find it, Kelvin, I think. Kelvin, that you're watching, and you said, I am entertained, but I wish it has more value. Ha ha ha, to quote. So Kelvin, welcome, because you are going to hear a lot of utility coming from some of our hosts or some of our guest speakers. And it's really exciting what is happening in this space. So I will start introducing our speakers and we will get to it. So Rob Clarke, welcome, and do a quick intro.
Hi everyone, my name is Rob. I work for a company called Reality Plus. We are basically a full service business that gets brands into NFTs and Web3 in general. We currently work with the BBC, a big media organization here in the UK, on a brand called Doctor Who, which I think most people will have heard of. It's a big sci-fi show that came from England, but I think it's quite popular everywhere now. So we make a Doctor Who card game, and we're also working on a brand called Thunderbirds, which is less familiar to the Americans audience, which is a old puppet show from the 1960s, which has we're sort of bringing back as an NFT.
All right, nice to see you, Rob. Mark, you're up. Hi, Mark.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mark Alenowitz. I am the co-founder of Upstream and Horizon Fintechs. And we are the first regulated national securities exchange in the world powered by the blockchain. And what I mean by that is that we're actually a digital security stock exchange. We allow the ability to sell tokenized equity across all capital stacks, whether it's debt, common stock, preferred. And now we've entered into this whole NFT space because we work with a lot of celebrities and entertainers and musicians and brands that are all looking to use NFTs as a form of fan engagement. But we do it in a safe and compliant manner, adhering to Bank Secrecy Act and Patriot Act and all these buzzwords that the DeFi community doesn't like. But what we try to do is use technology to enhance regulation rather than using technology to replace it. So we think that the future of NFTs are just getting started. And we think the NFT business around entertainment is really where NFTs are going to evolve to.
Thanks, Mark. We could take a group vote, and at any time Mark goes towards the SEC, we just mute him. No, I'm just kidding. Really important stuff to know. Regulation, we know it's coming, and it could be coming really hard and really soon. So some interesting things there, and it's exciting what Upstream is doing. All right, Xavier, sorry, you're up.
Hey, thanks for having me. Good afternoon, guys. I'm Xavier, and I work at Globe Exchange. So we're a derivatives focused perp exchange for crypto, allowing people to trade with some of the most quality technology out there. So within Globe, I'm head of the NFT markets, and my remit more or less focuses on deep research and understanding into how we can onboard NFTs for the next billion people and really mature the space away from kind of a speculative driven arena, which we think it is now, and into something that's really more tangible and something applicable that increases people's quality of lives or democratizes access to certain things, whether it be equity or sort of intellectual property ownership.
Nice to have you here. Thanks for coming. And last but not least, my daughter is really excited about this one. Hang, who's working with K-pop. Go, Hang.
Hey, Audrey. Well, I'm glad to hear I've got a fan out there. So my name's Hung. I'm the CEO of Soulstars. A little bit about me. I'm a management consultant by trade. Did a few years at McKinsey, then got into startups, then got into fintech, and eventually found my way into the crazy world of Web3 and NFTs. I run a company right now called Soulstars. Soulstars is a leading K-pop Web3 project. We've got really high quality content from some really top class producers in the industry. We're developing a virtual idol. We're developing first to market music games on blockchain, and we think the whole sort of like K-pop fandom in the metaverse and in Web3 is going to be a huge opportunity, and we want to be there leading the charge. So that's me.
Great. So the first question I'm going to have is going to lead into, where you guys can talk about your platforms, because obviously the market as of late, which kind of touches on that speculative that Xavier was talking about, is the NFT market has taken a hit. And some bad news, right? Seth Green's Bored Ape was stolen. He had to buy it back, which gets into who actually owns what, and Minecraft banning NFTs. So clearly it's just a bumpy road. We're here because we love the space. So I want each of you to touch on where are you seeing the opportunity and what are you doing to drive these projects forward, merging entertainment and moving them into Web3. Hong, we can start with you because you mentioned opportunity with K-pop.
Yeah. Look, I'm happy to take a crack at that one first. I think first of all, like to your question, right? I think all of us on this panel sort of realize, and I think everyone listening would realize that NFTs aren't quite mainstream yet, right? So the whole idea that you can market to a mass audience and get people to just see the value in what you're doing is not quite there. And so that's just the space that we're in, the time that we're in. And I think all of us on this call sort of understand those challenges, and it's about sort of educating and showcasing the value that this underlying technology brings, not for the sake of technology, but for what it can provide and what the use cases are that can provide. Look, in terms of what we're doing, we face the same challenges, right? Like K-pop, I actually think our audience is probably one of the audience who would sort of like in any other circumstance take up this sort of technology before others. If I think about Korea, if I think about K-pop, here's an audience that has traditionally just been very accepting of technology. Korea's got great technological companies. They've got high mobile penetration rates. They basically pioneered esports before it was a thing globally with their sort of local StarCraft and Warcraft competitions before it got big. But nonetheless, there's still a real sort of there's still a lot of work to be done to sort of like bring sort of the masses over. And so for us, the opportunity that we have here is we're one of the more progressed we're one of the more progressed projects in this space. We've got a great fan base already. We've got great quality of content. And for us, the opportunity is to get to market first and be there when the audience arrives and they're looking for, the sort of 100 million plus K-pop fans who come into the metaverse, who come into the virtual worlds, are going to be looking for a place to focus their fandom. And for us, that's the opportunity here. That's not an opportunity that's going to come tomorrow, but there's no doubt in our minds that it will come. And for us, that first mover advantage is huge. So that's where we see things going.
Great. And Mark, how about you with Upstream? It was really exciting to talk to you about the Nicki Minaj NFT drop.
Yeah, well, so what we focus on, we've taken a little bit of a different approach. I mean, when we look back at NFTs, I think we've experienced what I would call the, NFT 1.0, where I think the world really disconnected from what a true capability of an NFT can do. That it's not just a picture of an ape or a picture of a CryptoPunk or whatever it might be, but it actually has utility function. So we think the future of NFTs, or the 2.0 version, is what we're doing over here at Upstream, where we focus on celebrities and entertainers and brands and musicians and hip hop fans and sports teams, and allowing fans to have the ability to connect with them. But what's unique, and I think in order to get mass adoption for all of us on the call here today and everybody that's listening, is how do we translate a complex Web3 experience that requires the use and some knowledge of MetaMask and crypto and ETH and all these steps to a mainstream world that doesn't even understand those words. And that's what we've been able to do at Upstream, where we're focused on the 99% of the community that doesn't understand those terms, but they just want to get close to their favorite celebrity and have an experience that might be a meet and greet or ticketing or behind the scenes content or pay-per-view events, and truly making it an interactive experience and a convergence between entertainment in a movie studio, for instance, and then having that converge back into your phone, your home, and eventually into Web3. We've also been able to create the ability to actually have a digital image, an NFT, come from a Web3 experience into a Web2 and have a physical product delivered to your home. So we're really seeing a merger between modern technology and traditional e-commerce. And we do it in a way that a consumer can just log on and basically use a credit card and 30 seconds later own it. And that interoperability to be able to go into into a metaverse, into a Web3 experience, like with Hung and all these other games and these the Decentraland and Sandbox, that's the future. And that ability to take traditional media and put it into a Web3 experience is really where the future of entertainment is going in our opinion.
That's great. Now, Rob, so just so you know, lots of Doctor Who fans watching this right now. So, and how about you? Where are you seeing the opportunity moving forward?
I think it's all about, like, it's interesting that you bring up Minecraft, right? And it makes the news because it's a big license. It's one of the biggest games in the world, and like they're saying no to NFTs, and they're not the first. They won't be the last. A lot of bigger studios have said no to them. But I think, like, when you're looking at stuff like that, and when we look at stuff like that as a business, and we were a game studio as a legacy. That's what we did, and it's where our talents lied was in developing video games. And so the first thing we did when we started working with blockchain was to say, okay, surely other video games want to integrate it. And actually, I think that was a mistake. Not always, but I think, like, we as an industry need to really stand on our own feet with this stuff. In the best games that get produced that use NFTs, they've been produced to use that technology, right? And I think where NFTs get that bad rap, like the Minecraft side, is when you try to bolt it onto something that already exists, and then you get that cash grab sort of feel to it, and people don't engage. But we have this incredible opportunity to build the next thing that is its own platform, its own genre. Like, people hated mobile games when I was younger, like maybe 10 years ago. Farmville was a social game that was derided, and digital distribution, right? Like, not having a film that you're holding or a game that you're holding and downloading it was also something that people just didn't like, until certain places in those industries came out with something of a high enough quality that people had to start listening. And that's where we have that huge opportunity, because I'm not sure that there is any one company that has yet to bring out something as big as that, especially in the game space. We had a thing called the Orange Box on Steam, on the PC, which really showed people that digital distribution was good by making an amazing product that took the conversation into the world of the product and not the tech. So I think that's where we sit now on the precipice of that happening.
That's great. And Xavier, I saved you last purpose, because you talked about, you know, the speculative nature of NFTs. So what are you hoping to see, and how do you think we can move in the direction of more engagement, more true engagement, or authentic engagement, as opposed to that speculation? And are we ever going to really get rid of the speculative aspect of NFTs?
So I think if we're thinking about can we get rid of it, I think there's a duty for the builders in the space to change the narrative around NFTs and the wider cryptocurrency industry and Web3. I think currently for most kind of average people, or average individuals who are not in Web3, should I say, for them, it's perceived as a get rich quick scheme. So everything that evolves in that space, and every time new things come out, the goal is always to make a profit. And I think when you think about how people play games or why people play games, it's typically for pleasure or a deep interest in a specific vertical or theme that draws them towards playing that game. So in terms of how we overcome that speculation, I think we just have to have, and this is specifically in sort of play to earn and NFTs in gaming, is we need to enhance the quality of the projects that we build, make sure that the tokenomics, if necessary, is a sustainable one, or simply just making games that people enjoy, and also ensuring that there's a sustainability in the gameplay and there's an affordability that when people engage with that, they don't feel downhearted after, and then it kind of draws them away from the space after they've perhaps made a loss. Because I think that's something we see and we hear about in the mainstream media. Oftentimes it's the bad and negative press that turns people away. But people don't necessarily take the time to research and understand the good things and the innovations that are taking place. And I think as an industry, we have a huge duty of care to ensure that not only are we building and self-regulating, which is something we'll probably go on to talk about a bit more, but we have that duty of care to ensure that there's a certain quality threshold, and that involves NFTs too. And I think the big question is, in a bear market, and I mean, many people talk about it being a builder's market, so I'm not going to sort of echo that per se, but I think there really is now a point where we're at a tipping point and we can bring on many new users by actually bringing them things that they want to use and they want to return back to, without necessarily having the expectation of being able to retire in a year's time or 2 years' time.
That's great. So now I'm going to talk about marketing and community building to crypto natives and to non-crypto natives. So we'll start with Rob. So Rob, it's interesting because obviously Doctor Who is the big, most people on the planet know of Doctor Who. Thunderbirds is interesting because it's a rebrand and something. Is that what I would call it? I'm not sure. You're bringing something from the past and introducing it to new generations. Did you, and how did you build your communities with non-crypto users, or did you target the crypto community?
Well, Thunderbirds, as you say, it's a really interesting one, right? Because we can't, you can't rely there on the brand alone to make it make sense, but you can use the brand and the legacy in a way that respects it, but also enhances it, right? A lot of the early conversations we were having with people when we were forming the products that we were working on is how do you achieve those two goals, right? How do you make something that has value, but how do you also make something that can bring people in that don't know what a Thunderbird is? And the way that we've one of the key elements that we sort of worked on with that brand specifically was the charity side. And we actually have a 20% charity DAO scheme that any NFT holder of the Thunderbirds project has a vote in to determine what charities that we go out to and who we help. And the reason we did that is because Thunderbirds is actually a television show where a fictional rescue organization basically goes out and saves people from like landslides or with these vehicles. And what better way to sort of bring that brand into focus and bring it into the modern era by saying, look, now we have Web3, now we have the power of the internet and the community and blockchain. We can take that fictional show and we can produce a real world organization that does charitable stuff. And that's become a fairly key part of the whole campaign now, because it fits that brand so well. We don't have that big charity push with Doctor Who because it doesn't quite fit the brand in the same way. And the important part of a project like that is just being honest with the brand, being honest with the brand's strengths and weaknesses, and looking at where the strengths and weaknesses of Web3 and NFTs can complement.
That's great. And Hong, I'm going to direct that line of questioning also to you, because you have something that has mass mainstream appeal and you're bringing in, NFT technology. How did you approach it? And are you finding success building your community?
Yeah, look, I mean, I am quite proud of our community, actually. I think we've got quite an engaged community, quite an active community, even in the market that we're in. I mean, in terms of how I think about community building for Web3 projects, I think about it in sort of like in layers as you sort of build up that community. I think you've got, for me, I think the most important layer of the community is the community that you build that's actually very much interested in the content that you are, that in the theme, the content that your project speaks to, and into the and for the product itself, right? So for us, it's like, finding people who are actually interested in K-pop, and finding that intersection between interest and people who are Web3 active as well, and that is in all sort of like markets at the moment. That's a segment that you have to discover, right? You can't, for me, for this project, I can't go to a BTS fan group and tell them what we're doing and expect a great response. Just like you can't do this, just like you can't do that for any mainstream game. You can't get a AAA game title and tell them you've got an NFT game and expect they're going to come over. The masses are not, they're not quite ready. And there's enough sort of skepticism, a healthy skepticism, and somewhat of a reaction to these things that ensures that sort of style of marketing, of community building, doesn't work. And so what you do have to do is you have to find the audience that makes sense for your project. For us, it's people who are the real valuable community that we have are people that are interested in K-pop, that love our project, and are also Web3 active, right? That's a great layer in our community to have. They'll stick around because they love what you're doing. They'll talk about K-pop. They'll talk about the project, the game, and they don't fluctuate as much given the sort of phase of your project you're in, right? Because the next layer then becomes sort of the speculators and the people who are more financially motivated, as Xavier was talking about, right? So the fact is, in Web3, when you've got the ability to open up your economy and there's real world value in that economy, those people will come, right? They're going to be people who aren't interested in necessarily in your product, but they are going to be tracking how popular they think it might be, and they'll take part. And I think that's part of the industry that we're in at the moment. I don't necessarily think we need to, I don't necessarily think we should be shunning those people for any reason. They're part of how this industry quite works. But again, for these particular projects, in my mind, they're there and they're great to have. But we actually want people who aren't just here for the financial incentives, but they're here because they value what we're building, and they're very interested in the core of the project, not just the financial gains. And so I particularly value making sure that we actually go after that audience specifically, so we're not filling our community with people who are going to disappear as soon as we mint or as soon as we IDO. And for us, we keep a pretty close track of that proportion in our community and make sure it doesn't get out of it does sustain a certain level. And if you keep that in check, you'll find that you'll be able to build a sustainable, growing community, because that you're building on some really strong foundations there. So that's how we've done it, and I think to me that's probably the playbook that people should be thinking about in order to sort of like build a successful, robust community.
That's great. And Mark, like we touched on, the Nicki Minaj drop and kind of following what Hong
Yeah,
did.
I'm going to steer you away from Nicki. Nicki hasn't dropped yet.
Oh, okay, so she hasn't dropped. Can you talk about
No,
how?
I can't talk about that, but I can talk about other things that we're doing.
Right.
So I think, we're at a point in the industry where, and the DeFi community that's probably listening to this, they're getting ready to throw apples at me or eggs and boo me. But the reality is that we are, this marketplace, this area of growth has come from a community of very creative and excellent programmers and marketers and designers, and they've come up with these incredible ideas of how the world is going to interact with each other through a metaverse and using NFTs. But what they didn't recognize or realize is that some of these actions really stepped upon laws and regulations that were put in place in order to protect individual investors. And there's always the argument, does an individual investor need to be protected if they make an informed decision? Who is it for the government to come in and say, it's for us to tell you what you can do? If I understand my own risks, should I not be able to buy something? But the disconnect has happened related to certain rules and regulations around moving money and transmitting goods and services. And these comply or need to comply with rules like the Bank Secrecy Act and Patriot Act, which is know your customer and anti-money laundering. And now we're in a world that's become even more chaotic with what's happening in Ukraine and Russia, where many of the Russian individuals are on sanctions lists. And if Americans and in other jurisdictions do business with these individuals, these are pretty serious issues that everyone needs to be aware of. So when you look at it, the industry, there's a question, is some of these things utility based or some of these things securities based? And what I think we're all saying on this phone on today's call, at least what we're doing with our NFTs, is they're purely utility, and utility has the ability to unlock opportunities for fan engagement and entertainment and consumer interactions with brands and celebrities and musicians. Where we're going to run afoul is not questioning whether the product itself is a security or not, but whether the marketplace that's selling these need to register as an exchange or register as a securities platform that complies. And why is that important? Because I see some of the questions here. What about all these rug pulls? What about all the issues where we even see funds that are commingled, like what happened with Celsius and FTX, where you think you're investing and you have security, and the next thing you know, you can't get to your assets. We just saw this past week something happen with Coinbase, where they're now alleging that certain tokens and certain aspects on that marketplace are going to be deemed securities, or they're attempting to deem them as securities. If that's the case, then Coinbase is going to have to register, and it's very difficult to register as an exchange. So I'm saying this because it's important in the NFT space when you're dealing with individual investors or individual fans. All the platforms, all the creators of this content need to be aware of how to navigate and make sure that they don't run afoul and put their client in harm's way. And this is the plug for us over at Upstream. We are a regulated stock exchange. We have full KYC and AML. We have the ability to make sure that our customers, the fans, are transacting in a safe environment where they won't get a rug pull. But more importantly, to the brand or the consumer or the entertainer or the musician, they know they're dealing with a reputable area where you don't have to worry about ETH that might come from a nefarious source. So all that ties into really what's the future of entertainment related to NFTs. The future of entertainment and the NFTs, in my opinion, is reaching the 99% of the community that has no understanding what we're talking about, and getting that world to adopt the future. If we all thought about it 5 years ago or 10 years ago, that you could use a cell phone and tap on a piece of glass when we all had our Blackberries or keys, it was amazing. That's what we're about to experience, I think, in the NFT marketplace. And we always say, like, we've talked to Snoop's people and some of these other major celebrities, and they're all making a lot of money and they're doing a lot of great things. But how many people can actually figure out how to navigate using a MetaMask wallet? So while you might have made 40 million, you left 200 million on the table. But those are $200 million of not, it's great to make the money, but it's more important. Those are people who want to interact with the brand, but just don't know how to get there. Okay.
All right. No, that was, sorry, I pops up there. Okay, so one of the things I find exciting about the future of Web3 and Web3 Active, I like that term, is that content creators that might have been in silos, athletes, singers, gamers, can now become can now provide a multimedia experience. They, singers are launching games, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going to direct this now to one of the questions from our audience, and it's how do we overcome the bad image of NFTs in sections of the gaming community? And what's interesting is it's like everybody's kind of going towards gaming, right? So there's big gaming opportunities of, brand like K-pop, Thunderbird, like it's really, really exciting. How are you, or is it just a matter of time? How are we addressing the negative image of NFTs, aka the recent announcement by Minecraft, in the gaming to traditional gamers, or moving forward with your gamification of games? Hong, we can start with you.
Yeah, sure. I can give that a crack first. I think, look, I think first of all, that sort of like bad image has been built over years of sort of experience from players, right? In actual fact, I think video gamers are just naturally a little bit skeptical around new business models that sort of touch their industry, and I think that's a reaction to sort of a number of unsuccessful business models that have come through that have nothing to do with NFTs, quite frankly, right? I mean, there's a number of sort of I don't know what's the term, pay to win type games, which people people weren't aware. When they first came out, people didn't really know what they were. A lot of them, a bunch of people got sucked in, and all of a sudden they realized, hey, this is not really what I expected. And I think that's the reaction you're getting in the industry now, right? People are skeptical. They're like, hey, I like my games. Why is this coming? And is it somehow going to cause me to spend more than I want? And so I think that's a healthy reaction. I think that's something that the industry has to deal with. I think some of it's a little bit maybe not specific. I think some of it's maybe just more what they've learned from how this industry's developed. But I think the answer has to be on the players that are on the people that are in this industry, right? So no doubt in my mind that I think Mark was talking about sort of like web, what was it, like version 1 to version 2 of sort of like NFTs, right? Like we've gone through a period where there's been a lot of stuff which hasn't turned out great, that is sort of come through, right? I think there's been a lot of poorly constructed projects. There have been rug pulls. There's been that sort of stuff that's come through this industry, and that's because it's because it is new and regulation is not there, and there's that sort of like risk of things going wrong. And I think that hasn't put us in a good place to start with. But at the end of the day, the way we solve this problem is we deliver better projects, right? And we build trust in the community that what we're actually doing is actually beneficial. It's not something that we're able to force down people's throats and cause them to spend more money than they have to. It's none of those things, right? It's actually being able to take the technology that does support NFTs, that supports crypto, that supports developing a real world economy in games, and showing people that actually has value to their gameplay, right? To their enjoyment in the game. And I think if you do that, and the sort of like crap gets worn away, people will start, the credibility in the industry will rise, and people will start sort of like the image will be overcome, and people will start trusting and wanting to take part in this industry more. So that's how I see it.
Okay, I'm going to go to another question, and it's directed to Xavier. And I know in the past there were general questions around NFTs and how we're destroying the environment. I think that question's kind of been put to bed, right, with sustainable chains, et cetera, et cetera. The question is, how can we onboard millions of carbon credits in our Web2 repository directly by our members to create, it's a long question, to create NFTs with utility and as a store of value using Oracle smart contracts, etc. So I guess maybe carbon credits, maybe or anyone making a conscious effort to use, carbon neutral or carbon negative chains, processes, etc.
Yeah, so with that question, it's interesting. Let me have a think for a second. Onboard millions of carbon
I can
credits.
solve that for you a little bit while you're thinking, if you like.
Yes, please.
So that sounds actually a lot like packaging that into a security that is represented by in a digital format. We at Upstream are a digital stock exchange that would easily be able to do that. Our technology can convert any image, any video, any sound, anything into an NFT in less than 30 seconds. So to be able to mint carbon credits that you could then use as the ability to trade. And we've had several people come to us looking to set up carbon credit trading exchanges and basically digitizing the old OTC books or the derivatives books that people use right now. So it's something that can easily be done, but it has to be done in a regulated manner, because what you're doing is it's important in that aspect to absolutely know who the buyer and seller is, and at least know that you're not dealing with any type of illegal money movement in order to facilitate the transfer of those asset classes.
That's great. And does anyone have anything to add in regards to that? If not, go ahead.
I was just going to touch on to that. I think, the discussion around sort of carbon credits and cryptocurrencies contribution to global warming, I think, is a much bigger topic than just NFTs. And I think, even if you go back to TradFi and a lot of the discussions that have been had around ESGs and things like that, I think there's NFTs is such a small contribution that I don't even think that is something that people really will address in a mass market space. And I think there'll probably be other priorities that affect people deciding around NFT creation, utility, and things like that. So I'm not really sure personally whether commercially or otherwise how carbon credits and NFTs build such a big bridge, because I think even in Web 2 and even in TradFi, there's still so many things and errors that exist in that space that haven't yet been dealt with, and I don't think NFTs is even the way to solve that.
Okay, so I'm going to direct this question to everybody, and it has something, it's going to kind of tie into one of the questions is that there's a lot of rug pulls. How can we put trust in NFTs again, especially in the gaming community? So one of the questions we had down is, what do you see happening in the next 18 months with NFTs? I think maybe we can tie that in, and that's building that trust back in the community. Mark, we can start with you.
Well, I think it comes down into how do we put trust back into the community, and I think there's a couple of ways to do it. It's Xavier had mentioned the ability for everybody that are the architects or the ones that are actually creating this whole marketplaces need to adhere to standards that protect everybody, because you're always going to have bad actors that are going to attempt to do these things. I think the idea of regulation, I think, is important. We can't see it go too far, because then it's going to basically stymie growth. But there's a balance between the two, and I think if we look at it as now, it's not, and a lot of these previous NFTs, in my opinion, were nothing other than pump and dumps. And I think the unfortunate aspect is a lot of celebrities got behind these, and because a celebrity owned it and flexed that they own it, that everybody thought there was perceived value. But if we talk about going into a new way of NFTs that are the ability to unlock content, to somebody had asked a question, where do we see technology going related to entertainment using NFTs as a means of unlocking that content? We work with Braun Studios. Braun did House of Gucci and Judas and the Messiah and Ghostbusters and other major theatrical releases, and they're recognizing that the future is to be able to deliver content into a Web3 experience and using that NFT as the lock to do that. So as you have more and more brands and celebrities that enter this space, and more self-policing by the community, and more disclosure, so the investor understands what they're buying. And if we move it away from the purpose of trying to buy something at $1 and sell it for 10,000, but rather buy it for $1 because it will give me $1 of value of entertainment, then I don't think the rug pulls are going to be as prolific. And I think more and more people will recognize that NFTs are a utility to create engagement and fun and entertainment.
It's a great answer. And Hong, next 18 months, what do you think? What do you see?
The next 18 months. Well, first of all, I'm not a financial advisor, so don't take any of my comments as anything other than entertainment. 18 months. Wow. I mean, look, I mean, this industry moves so quick, right? There could be so many things that happen in 18 months. I would sort of like echo the comments that, you know, I again, you know, on top of regulation, I think playing a key sort of role. I think education has also sort of like improved drastically in this space, right? People have learned from what's gone wrong, what the signals are, you know, what the signals are to look for in terms of a bad project, not just the public, but also definitely in the sort of like in the VC financing space as well. So I think there's probably going to be a bunch to clean up in the next 18 months, to be honest with you. I think you know, there's you know, the sort of, in terms of the market that we're in now, the sort of the weaker projects will, you know, struggle, and we're probably going to see a lot of clearing out of projects that in actual fact really just didn't have the value, the value to provide to their customer base to begin with, and they'll probably go. I think the rest, you know, we're going to see, you know, some you know, hunkering down and building. As I think other people have mentioned, I think we're going to see more partnerships as well. I think the other thing that people in this space should be more receptive of at this point in time, as we sort of like navigate the bear market, is, you know, how do we be more receptive to working together to combine sort of like strategic IP, to share operational capabilities, so we can actually do better things together in this period. So I think a lot of that will happen as well. And like I said, I think we've sort of moved. I really do think we've moved beyond the sort of core sort of role of NFTs as purely as collectibles. I don't really think there's much of a market for that anymore. And the analogy I use is like, collectibles to me are like art. And if I look around my house, how much art do I really want to buy, right? Like, it's nice to have a painting on the wall, but boy, I would love a spoon to eat my dinner at some point, right? So you have to buy stuff that eventually has some level of utility. And I think that's really where we're going to move. I think it still will be a tough period, 18 months. Hopefully we start seeing some recovery off the back of that. And then I think we really will see some really exciting projects that have come through that period and come out of it.
That's great. Okay, so now we're wrapping up. We're going to continue with Rob, plug, and next 18 months. What are you looking forward to?
The next 18 months, I think we're on the precipice now of where projects that have been being built, you know, we say build now, build in the bear market, and, you know, people weren't not building when the market was good. At least the sensible ones were building, and it takes a long time to make a good product. You cannot put something out. When NFTs became popular in 2019, 2020, the things that come out in the 6 to 18 month period there are the things that are, you know, potentially trailblazing and potentially not so exciting, potentially rush out the door. Whereas now we're at the point where we're talking about the 3rd or the 4th year, and the high quality people that have been building for a long time in quiet, and the projects like our game, like and other people's products that have they've been building for a long time, are going to come out, and they're going to raise the bar, and they're going to raise the expectations from the audience, who are slowly learning, as any new industry needs to do, exactly what is okay and what isn't.
Great. And Xavier, how about you?
Next 18 months, I think we're in a race against time versus external regulation, and I think that's actually probably going to be the most impactful thing that affects this space. I think if we let people less educated than than kind of the pioneers and participants in this space inaccurately regulate our space, it may get really stifled, and I think it may then become a net negative effect. So I think over the next 18 months, there's really a duty to ensure that we self-regulate and increase the bar of output and execution in this space, and really start to build more mature projects that are sustainable and people enjoy, and people are less concerned about the financial gains from that. And just sort of echoing again what was said by Rob, I think building stuff that takes time to build and that people really enjoy and really have big moats, I think will be the future. But I think we're also going to see a lot of consolidation within the space. I struggle to think of a world where 100 million people are spending thousands and thousands of pounds, dollars, etc., speculating on effectively JPEGs, because I think that if you're looking at it from an external perspective, that's how people view it, you know. So I think the next 18 months is a race against time to achieve that.
All right, well, that's a wrap. Thank you, everybody, for coming in. For anyone that's watching, I really urge you to follow our panel speakers on social media, on LinkedIn or what have you. They are movers in the space, very exciting things coming on their platforms. I really think everyone here is innovative and have some really exciting things happening fairly quickly. So make sure you find them on LinkedIn, find them on Twitter. And thank you so much. And Miles, are you on? Because we're going back to you, right?
I'm here. Hey, guys. Just thanks from my side for a really wonderful panel. I really appreciated all of those insights. I'm excited to see what the future of entertainment holds, as I'm sure everyone listening in has also been. We're going into a break now. So there'll be an opportunity to dive in, get involved in some of the networking opportunities. But before we do, I do want to just give a quick shout out to one of our partners, and he's sitting right here with us today. He doesn't know I was going to throw the mic to him, but Rob, I just wanted to see if you had anything you wanted to throw out to anyone to come and why should they come and see Reality Plus in your booth during this break?
Well, we have basically a very, very broad church of things that we can produce for brands, and a way that we look at, the way that we look at Web3 and the way that we look at, does an NFT make sense, or does other things in Web3 make more sense? Is tokenization a thing for you? Is it not? We're a very open, a very honest company with a lot of experience, and I think we represent a really safe pair of hands for brands that are looking to go in, avoid those rug pulls, avoid that negativity, avoid getting lost in the environmental, and in fact trying to start leading the environmental conversation. It's a scary market for people, and I think we do our best to try and help guide people through it.
Thanks so much. Thank you very much, Mark, Xavier, Hung, Rob, and of course to Ned, Audrey, for a wonderful moderation for that session. Thanks to the audience for some great questions, and please go take a little break, get involved in some of the discussions, speed networking. There's fluid spaces. It's a mini metaverse. Go meet with people, get your webcams on and start chatting and discuss the future of this space, because it's yours for the trailblazing, right? So yeah, thank you very much. We'll see you all in the break. Bye for now.